JICA lecture series of Japanese development experience to date, in line with JICA Global Agenda, Cooperation Strategies by Development Issues.
Japan's experience in the earthquake and seismic sector. Yokoi Toshiaki, Senior Advisor, JICA.
Will future generations be able to live in your house safely? At any given time, planet Earth is faced with various disasters: earthquakes, tsunamis, flood, droughts, cyclones, and so on. The risk of earthquakes exists all over the world. Located along the Southern Pacific Ring of Fire, Japan cannot escape from disasters caused by tectonic plate motion. Almost 10% of human-felt earthquakes, including damaging ones, take place in and around the archipelago of Japan. Throughout its long history, Japan has been making efforts to develop a strong, disaster-resilient society. These range from earthquake observation, earthquake early warnings, earthquake risk assessment, and quick earthquake information, to the promotion of earthquake-resistant buildings, seismic control and isolation, the development of new technologies, emergency response, preparation after a disaster prevention awareness activities, and more. We do not know when and where an earthquake disaster will occur. Why do we need to take disaster prevention measures in advance? To create a society in which children and grandchildren several generations ahead of our own can live safely and securely. However, in many earthquake-prone countries around the world, including Japan, the risk of earthquakes has been increasing. This is a result of overcrowding in cities due to economic prioritization of development, further concentration of the population in areas with high earthquake risk, and construction of vulnerable buildings. It is sometimes said that Japanese buildings are safe even if an earthquake occurs, but what kind of approach are we currently taking on earthquakes countermeasures? Based on the experience of repeated earthquakes in its long history, Japan has improved earthquake resistance standards, promoted technological development, and strengthened buildings with a policy of protecting lives even if buildings are destroyed. However, even if people's lives can be protected, if the buildings are actually destroyed, individuals will not be able to live there, and economic and social functions will also be halted. Rebuilding a structure each time it is destroyed is not a sustainable mechanism. Therefore, today in Japan, we are working on earthquake countermeasures based on the idea that even if a large-scale earthquake occurs, we should aim to prevent damage not only to lives but also to buildings, so that their continuous usability and social functions can be maintained.
Technologies for maintaining the functions of buildings in Japan.
Now let's learn about the background to this issue and the technologies used to maintain the functions of buildings in Japan. We have invited Professor Emeritus Akira Wada, a world-leading earthquake engineering researcher at the Tokyo Institute of Technology, to speak with us today. Professor Wada, could you tell us about the lessons Japan has learned from earthquake disasters? Specifically, how Japan recognized the importance of not only protecting lives, but also maintaining the functions of buildings?
Sure. Most buildings constructed during the period of high economic growth were built in line with the minimum standards of the time. The Miyagi earthquake occurred in 1978, and new earthquake resistance standards were established in 1981. After that, there were no major earthquakes for a while. However, the Great Hanshin Awaji earthquake happened in 1995, and a large number of buildings collapsed, causing many casualties. Buildings that met the new earthquake resistance standards of 1981 did not collapse completely and saved human lives. However, they ultimately placed a heavy economic burden on people's lives thereafter. For these reasons, Japan realized that it was not enough to protect human lives even if buildings collapsed. This led to a change in thinking that society and the economy should also be protected in order to maintain their functions. Based on this idea, seismic isolation and vibration control technologies were widely introduced as building construction method.
What kind of technical solutions can be implemented to maintain the function of building in the event of a large-scale earthquake?
There are three main solutions: the construction of strong structures, vibration control to enhance seismic energy dissipation, and seismic isolation that elongates the resonance period of buildings to suppress seismic energy input. There are best ways to protect non-structural elements and equipment as well as building structure against severe ground motion.
Regarding the future of earthquake resistance technology, what should we do to strengthen society in the face of so many disasters?
Yes, in order to promote seismic strengthening, various mechanisms such as laws, systems, funds, and technologies are necessary. In Japan, we have been conducting different research since modern times and improving these mechanisms based on lessons learned from past earthquake disasters. However, these systems have been developed in line with Japanese society, and it is by no means enough for other countries to copy and apply the Japanese or overseas systems as they are to their own situations. One option is to build high-rise buildings in dense cities and use the latest technology to reduce the risk of earthquake disasters. On the other hand, I believe there is another option: careful urban planning to prevent overcrowding to avoid creating further risks. Societies are different in each country. I think achieving sustainable economic development by aiming to build a disaster-resistant society while considering the characteristics of societies in different countries benefits earthquake disaster prevention.
Please tell us what we should keep in mind when thinking about the earthquake safety of buildings.
It is important not only to meet the building standards, but also to have the mindset of looking ahead and looking beyond these standards to construct safe buildings. After Kumamoto Castle collapsed in the 2016 Kumamoto earthquake, there were controversial discussions between those who wanted to restore it to its original form and those who argued that The original form should be restored with a stronger design because the castle could collapse again in the event of another disaster. When I asked the group, would you feel safe letting your grandchild sleep next to the castle's stone wall after the restoration? Those who insisted on restoring it to its original form could not answer yes.
It is not enough to protect human lives even if buildings collapse. The function of buildings should also be maintained in order to protect society and the economy. Based on this way of thinking, seismic isolation and seismic control have been actively incorporated in Japan. It is important to build a disaster-resistant society and achieve sustainable economic development while considering the characteristics of individual countries. Careful urban planning to prevent overcrowding to avoid creating further risks is another option. It is important not only to meet building standards, but also to have the mindset of looking ahead and beyond these standards to construct safe buildings for future generations. JICA's earthquake resistance support.
Although Japan has invested a lot in disaster risk reduction, residual risks such as existing non-eligible buildings remain. Based on Japan's experience, JICA has been implementing technical cooperation projects in a manner that considers the circumstances of different countries. Developing countries are still facing earthquake risks and challenges in reducing vulnerable buildings by making them compliant with building codes. It is important to take effective countermeasures that match the actual building construction situation in each country. As Japan has also been tackling many challenges in reducing earthquake risks and saving people's lives for many years, we can learn from each other. JICA's assistance strategy for promoting building safety does not directly cover privately owned homes. JICA cooperates with developing countries to upgrade building-related laws, codes, and systems, and in introducing techniques for retrofitting public buildings so that our cooperation can contribute to and benefit society as a whole. At the same time, we provide support for comprehensive earthquake disaster risk reduction measures that encompass the development of disaster prevention systems, including risk-informed urban planning and regional disaster risk reduction plans. In El Salvador, JICA has been supporting the implementation of the project for capacity development for the evaluation and seismic reinforcement of buildings in the metropolitan area of San Salvador. The project aims to promote appropriate seismic evaluation, seismic retrofitting design, and construction supervision for public buildings. In Bhutan, we have implemented a scientific and technological cooperation project called the Project for Evaluation and Mitigation of Seismic Risk for Composite Masonry Buildings in Bhutan. The project developed effective earthquake-resistant guidelines for round earth construction and stone masonry buildings. In Bangladesh, JICA has supported government engineers in developing their capacity for assessing the vulnerability of existing buildings, introducing design methods for retrofitting public buildings, implementing them, and developing a building quality assurance system. JICA has also tried to expand retrofitting techniques for engineers in the private sector and to promote cooperation with academia. Of course, we are also focusing on human resource development and have continued supporting it for more than 60 years, which is important for all of these. For human resource development, JICA has been implementing training programs such as the Seismology, Earthquake Engineering, and Tsunami Disaster Mitigation Program, which enables trainees to obtain a master's degree in 1 year, and other short-term training programs in Japan. Through these trainings and capacity development cooperation, many new leaders in this sector have already been nurtured all over the world. We hope they will promote earthquake risk reduction based on Japan's experiences. Plugging holes in the bottom of a ship is cheaper than salvaging a wrecked ship and causes no casualties. Similarly, pre-disaster investment can support the development of a stable country at a low cost in the long run. Current investment in disaster prevention will lead to protecting the lives and livelihoods of children in the future.
Japan has modernized from a non-Western background to establish a free, democratic, prosperous, and peace-loving nation. In this sense, Japan is one of the best development models for the developing countries and regions today. In addition, Japan has contributed to economic growth in many developing countries, especially in Asia. Therefore, we would like to share with you Japan's unique experience of modernization, which is different from Western countries, and cooperation for developing countries through this video material. This video series provides a comprehensive summary by development issue according to the lineup of JICA's cooperation strategy called the JICA Global Agenda.